Welcome back to Chow Time Pods. Your host, Red.
I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is Psychacks, Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic of today's short talk is effort doesn't pay. So this might be a bitter pill for some of you, and it might be counterintuitive for others, but I hope you'll bear with me as I present my case. The fact of the matter is that effort doesn't get you paid. The amount of time you spend, the number of attempts you make, the quantities of blood, sweat, and tears you pour into your efforts, they are all completely irrelevant when it comes to relationships. In fact, all of these things only matter exactly to the extent that your time, trials, and effort produce results that are valuable to others. And this is as true in professional as it is in sexual relationships. You might think that what you're doing is intrinsically valuable. You might be identified with your process, but trust me, that's not how whoever you're dealing with is thinking about it. As I've said repeatedly, it's the cat who decides what milk is good. You can't choose for the cat. But if you learn to watch the cat's preference and selection carefully, you will quickly learn how to optimize your efforts with respect to your results. This is really important to appreciate, as there are a lot of people out there devoting inordinate amounts of time, energy, and money on aspects of their service that don't actually move the needle with respect to their relationships. And this is a huge amount of both.
That makes sense. A lot of people think certain things are going to give them better results with women or things like that, but it actually really doesn't.
Wasted effort and squandered opportunity. Now, there are several signs of mastery. One of them, most germane to this talk, is the ability to produce a maximum amount of value with a minimum amount of effort. Like the person who can do this.
That's my kind of person right there. Lazy people. Lazy people that want to work hard. Why? Because they're going to get that job done with the least amount of effort possible because they're lazy, but they want to get the job done. So that's how I am. I always try to optimize my processes and things to get maximum output for the least amount of effort.
Has his craft down to a science. And the World Cup actually gave us an excellent example of this.
This is true, right? Messi does not run. He just walks slowly until that moment comes where he needs to play the ball, and he plays the ball.
Level of mastery recently. This is a fun fact. In the 2026 World Cup, Lionel Messi ranked last, like dead last. That is 618th out of 618 outfield players in terms of average distance covered per 90 minutes. What that means is that Messi spends most of the game walking around. Of course, when the play calls for it, he has no problem putting it into sixth and making things happen. But for most of the game, he's actually pretty chill. And yet, for all this ostensible lack of effort, Messi ended up second in the tournament in terms of total goals scored. And that is pretty cool. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's literally making a minimum amount of effort while producing a maximum amount of value for his team. That's why he's a master. Now, that said, I'm sure Messi didn't start out his career walking around the field. Like, the guy making a minimum amount of effort and producing a negligible amount of value will very quickly be benched.
Correct.
I imagine he spent years grinding and drilling and training, perhaps even more than his teammates and competitors. This is important. Every single successful person I know only arrived at his or her success after passing through an extended period of delayed gratification.
Correct.
And during this period, a great deal of effort is expended for quite some time before any commensurate results appear.
100%. All right. I have a great example of this. My YouTube. I started YouTube almost a year. I did not get paid for YouTube, and I was producing videos every single day until something finally came up, and then I got monetized, and then I started making a little bit of money. Now I do pretty well for myself, but who cares about my little struggle in the year? They only care that I'm entertaining. They only care that I provide value to them.
And this, of course, causes a lot of people to give up. The return on effort expended during this period is, frankly, extremely demoralizing.
But you have to understand it yourself. This effort, yes, I see no results right now, but I know if I work hard enough, there will be results later. People have to be able to see that. If you cannot see that, there's just no way that you'd be willing to put up that much effort into anything.
And there is certainly no guarantee that even
Correct.
additional
There
effort
is no
will
guarantee.
eventually produce the desired result. Those who survive have enough grit and determination, if not flat out psychotic confidence, to pass through this barren and strenuous period.
I used to say this a lot when I first started this channel, that the number one moniker of success is grit. Grit. It's the ability to get knocked down and pick yourself back up, dust yourself off, and keep going forward. The amount of times that you get knocked down is going to be almost endless. Almost endless. And if you give up, you're never going to reach that destination because you're just on the ground. Even if you get up and take only one step and get knocked right back down, you still moved forward.
During this time, it's essential you keep your eyes on the prize and remember that the season you plant is never the season you reap. Keep the faith that your grind will eventually lead to the kind of competence and mastery that will enable a more successful leveraging of effort further down the field. That said, throughout all this, it is necessary that you clearly comprehend that your efforts are ultimately irrelevant. In the real world, you don't get paid for trying. You get paid for results.
You get paid for
In
doing.
fact, the bigger the ratio between your effort and outcome, the worse your reputation will be. Consider the stat I just shared. If Messi were actually number one in average distance covered, that is, if he were sprinting up and down the pitch the entire game, but that didn't convert into any goals or assists, I don't think anyone would be considering him a good player.
Correct.
It would actually be embarrassing that all that striving produced.
That sounds like you'd be a try-hard. You tried very hard, but still did nothing.
So few tangible results. Do you see what I'm saying? Again, the only thing that matters in relationships is the outcome, as defined by the game you're playing or the person you're dealing with. There's an excellent parable that exemplifies this. It's the parable of the golden hammer, and I'll tell it to you now. One day, this gigantic machine breaks down in a factory. The whole production grinds to a halt, and the owner of the factory is understandably in a tizzy trying to bring it back online. Eventually, he decides to call up this highly rated mechanic, who comes out to the site as soon as possible. In the factory, the mechanic spends about 10 minutes silently looking over the machine in its various parts and configurations. Finally, he pulls out of his pocket this tiny golden hammer, like something you could just barely hold with 2 fingers, and he gives one specific cog a little tap, and suddenly the whole big machine springs back to life.
I like this analogy a lot.
The factory owner is, of course, incredibly grateful and relieved until he gets the bill.
Correct.
The mechanic is charging him $1 million for his service. And the owner flies into a rage. What are you talking about, $1 million? You spent all of 10 minutes at the factory, and all you did was tap this machine once. I could have done that. This is an outrage. The mechanic, however, keeps his cool and responds, but I know which gear to tap. And now your whole production is back online. I've delivered an incredible amount of value to you. I could have dithered and analyzed and made a big show over how difficult and expensive your problem would be to fix. Instead, I got the job done perfectly and quickly. So what are you complaining about? That is exactly right. Exactly right. You're ultimately paid for the value you deliver, not the time and effort you spend in delivering it. And this means that any prudent participant in the marketplace, sexual or professional, should constantly look out for opportunities to leverage his or her effort to maximize value. And this, of course, is a virtuous cycle, as doing so will free up even more time in which to generate even more value. Do this, and you'll be wildly successful. What do you think? Does this fit with your own experience? Let me know in the comments below.
I actually 100% agree. This is how I kind of live my life. I work very, very hard in the beginning and then try to standardize processes, try to shrink processes down, try to minimize movements and moving parts and things like that to get it as streamlined as possible and as easiest to comprehend as possible for myself, for my employees, for whatever it is I'm doing, so I can put in the least amount of effort to make it move. Now that I put in all this effort and built all of this system and everything together, all I have to do now is push. And all I do every day now is slightly push. But I put in that work, right? And I think that's where people see a lot of people nowadays, successful people, only pushing. And they're like, oh, they don't do anything. All they do is ever just push. Yeah. They did a shitload what you didn't see to get to that point where they know all they have to do now is push. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. I really appreciate that. And catch you guys next time. Ciao.